Alright guys, let's talk about Rogue in Season 10 and why it kind of feels cooked and underwhelming. So to say the least, basically I want to show you guys the new item that the Rogue has gotten. So the brand new item that Rogue gets is called the Orphan Maker in Season 10. And what it does is makes it so your basic and core skills that use this weapon, which pretty much comes down to marksman skills, now reload. Which means that you cannot attack during the animation, making everything feel a lot more clunky, but they deal way more damage, right? You can get up to 300% on the higher end, but if you happen to run Orphan Maker in a different slot with the brand new Chaos Uniques, you now can get a 360x multiplier, which is pretty strong, right? You normally think, well, wow, that's a really big number, but have you ever checked out Hydra heads? Those scale way higher. Maybe add another 0 to this, and then maybe people will kind of consider running this. And the reason why is Rogue has actually been in a pretty bad spot since the previous season. They've been in the bottom slot, and as far as PTR testing, as far as I'm aware of, Rogue is still kind of towards the bottom of the barrel when it comes to Season 10. To have like one class be like the most bottom tier in 2 different seasons in a row, it kind of feels bad, especially since we had major nerfs to the Death Trap, which was one of the top tier builds. But the thing that I don't enjoy with this is specifically not just this, but also going into the powers. So if they want to add another 0, it still at the end of the day will feel clunky. There's not a good way to get around that. I really try to cap out on as much attack speed as possible. For the build, keep in mind you can technically break it and go to 200 with category 2, but for the most part it still feels really bad. You cannot essentially change that reload animation, like even if you go for more attack speed. It does not break that. So what you have to do is weave something in between. And there are some cool ideas with the new Chaos Uniques, but it's mainly talking about the powers, and the reason why I feel like the class is a little bit underwhelming. It really comes down to the perks. So I already kind of showed you guys this, like, again, I could not shoot my main weapon, look. There's a long cooldown, right? So the mindset would be to activate a build with combo points, right? Combo points has always been something where it did have a lot of uses back when we were in like Season 0 with Twisting Blades, but this whole clunkiness, it could be facilitated if you did enough damage with the build. But the perks don't really match up with the power, fantasy, and level that the other classes got. So I want to show you guys the Rogue one, and this way you guys can kind of see where their idea was going, and I understand kind of their ideas, and I see where they were going with this, but I'm going to show you guys kind of why it misses the mark and why a lot of people think Rogue is currently underwhelming. So let's go over the brand new Rogue perks, right, because this is for the new season. So the first one is that every basic skill cast will have a random imbuement. Imbuement skills deal 40x damage. Okay, so we could just get 40x increased damage if we're playing an imbuement, but on top of that, we have all of the basic skills getting imbued. Now, it is kind of nice that you just have a free multiplier, but if you really want to scale into, let's say, a basic build with specific imbuements, you now have so many different areas where if you want to get a multiplier, you have like cold, you have poison, and all these other ones, and if it's random, obviously that kind of messes things up. There is something called Cold Clip that already exists for all of your basic attacks, which gives you 40x increased damage to enemies who are chilled or frozen, which already gives you that multiplier, but it's basically that your basic skills then gain that imbuement, and it's guaranteed you get the specific one that you want, so it's a lot easier to scale. So that's where I feel like this one falls a little bit short as far as basic. If it was like your basic and core skills, maybe we can think about something different because you already have an aspect in that area. And then as far as the stun grenades releasing these chaotic bursts to deal extra damage, I want to say that this, as far as it goes, I haven't seen any build that is making great use out of the chaotic grenades in terms of min-maxing, but as far as this goes, in terms of using the chaotic like bursts, because there's like a kind of a build if you want to go into it, I want to say that Barbarian would probably be the best bet because you have two-handed weapons, which usually lets you scale things a lot higher because, well, that's a really good thing to have, right? And then as far as the other final two, this is the one that I think is the biggest offender of like kind of where it feels underwhelming, where like Druid has like 50x damage per amount of resource that you're gaining over a certain amount, which right now it kind of stacks to crazy amounts. We have the Sorc, which plus ranks to core skills, starts ramping up even higher, which is really good. You have so many different other builds that are like 100x multiplier on like a or way higher, right? Whereas this, you don't really have a chance to scale this because it just kind of gives you it, but it has a massive downside. So you no longer passively generate energy, so you have no source of generating it, although you can use like Aftermath and other ways to generate it. So there's a pretty big downside, right? But then you gain the following. You have a 100% chance for whatever to hit twice or have the projectiles cast twice, right? Where we already have that we can roll on specific pieces of gear right here. We have marksman projectiles to cast twice. One of the better things to get in Season 10 is Sky Hunter, and you can get your marksman projectiles already to cast twice. So having this as a power that is unique for the Rogue, where again, it's casting twice, unless this is a separate multiplier on like the casting twice, as in like you could get like 4 times because it's casting off itself. Then this just falls short because you can already get that with your tempering. So this already, again, falls kind of short, just like this one over here. Now, the next one and the last one that I want to talk about is hit and run. So what this does is for every 15 meters that you move, you get 50x increased damage for 5 seconds. The bonus stacks, but it doesn't refresh. And I'll talk about this one and show it off kind of in gameplay. So how it wants you to play is, oh, by the way, there's another big downside with this one, is that you actually lose 30% damage if it is not active. So you actually have a damage reduction, especially against a boss where you don't really have it anywhere to move. And with the new chaos mode for the hordes, unless you're playing like maybe like a Dance of Knives build, see how this has a little up thing? So you can get like 2 stacks of this. You can maybe go to 3, but you have to eventually shoot, right? So I get the idea of like moving and shooting. That is maybe their design where they want you to shoot and then you want to move. But when you have the brand new system really kind of compete for time, and because almost all builds in Tormented 4, I know this isn't hard right now, I just made this character, but if you have, even on Torment 4, most of the builds at the end of the game will start one-shotting everything. So having this big downtime on the brand new Unique, which is something that you should encourage people to play, and on top of that, again, Rogue wasn't in the best spot. So even though there's a pretty big multiplier, again, you'd maybe have to add another 0 or do some more testing to get that number to be worth it, because it's a clunky mechanic, and it's kind of pushing people towards running combo points. But even if we would to say consistently get like 2, right? Again, if we like look at this number and let's say we get 2, we can activate the ability, and we have about 2, right? That's about what you can get. If you just run instead one of the chaos perks that is a generic one, where you can't be healed above 50% life, and then you run the other one where you get more damage for every 10% life that you're missing. So for 50% HP, then we then get 100. That gets rid of all the clunkiness, and we don't have to lose out on that damage. So like the Rogue Unique over here, to make it simple, you can make the number scale way higher. That's like an easy way to do it, but I think that there could be other options. Again, there's a lot of these clunky mechanics, especially when you look at this where you like lose all of your energy generation. The upside, it doesn't really exist because you already would normally in any build get this. If the idea was to maybe have it so we can play like a Flurry and a Barrage Rogue to do 2 different types of damage, well, there's another problem with the way that the Diablo 4 currently is designed, which is basically a 1 skill DPS build, right? There's very few builds that will do Flurry, Twisting Blades, like all of these things at once, and the Rogue kind of has built-in mechanics where, again, you would want to use multiple things with, again, combo points, and that combo points can work, but I'm saying, like, as far as getting 100% damage to, let's say, Twisting Blades, and then also like double damage to Flurry, you have 2 things kind of competing with each other. And if you were to make a Twisting Blades build, right, you would want to run the Blade Dancers aspect, because you would want this in your two-handed to get as much damage as possible. But then also Flurry would then compete for your other slots, and then you would be losing out on so much min-maxing in terms of DPS, when again, the class is already not in the best spot. Even though, again, I understand the number is quite high, as far as the bonuses go with Orphan Maker at the higher end, it just feels a little bit underwhelming. You could technically run the new thing over here, and I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like, with, of course, the new hit and run. And if I was to just hold this down, you guys can see how many of the bonus points we're getting. Let's have that perk activated. So I would say I've seen it go up to 4, but on average, it's kind of like a 150 to maybe if you get a bunch of movement speed, which brings up the other problem that I wanted to talk about. Even if you were to play Dance of Knives, which would work quite well with the new build, however, in the new update, since we're going to be playing all of these things in areas where we normally would get movement speed, right, on the boots, we no longer can get the movement speed on the boots because we need to play the things for the damage multipliers. So then you'd have to throw on things like, I don't know, Tyrell's Might, I don't know, Melted Heart of Selig, anything that would give us movement speed or sacrifice even more damage with the build. And again, Rogue is already in kind of a bad spot for the next upcoming season. However, there are some cool things that I did want to go over. I still think the class is kind of cooked in the current state, and this is why I want to, hopefully bring attention to this. Condemnation actually got a pretty cool buff, though. Every single time that you use an ability, specifically the basic skill, it's going to actually do more damage, but casting a basic skills always gives you maximum combo points. It used to be like a 33% chance or something like that, and now it is just straight up, you get all 3 combo points. So again, the idea and the design was probably to use the ability. It's on a cooldown, so you rotate in between, but there's a problem with the way it's designed. If you push the button, you can't shoot one and then go right back into the other one. We actually have something else that's like reducing our cost over here, or actually increasing it. But what I'm trying to say is, if I do one ability, I cannot use my generator and then go back to the spender. So you're still making it clunky, even though like this is a pretty good buff, and I get it, like the idea with Orphan Maker is that you have a reload, but if you want people to use the combo points, it should be using the generator, spender, generator, spender. It should be like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Because of the new buff. But the problem is the timing, and even if you get more attack speed, it doesn't solve the reload. If you make reload work with attack speed, so you can at least do one rotation of, again, the generator and then spender, kind of like, so it's like 1, 1, versus you have to use this one like 2 times. At that point, Condemnation's new buff doesn't apply. So I want to say that it could be something that could be looked at, but those are like my current, like, status of the Rogue in terms of like my thoughts on the Rogue. I think that it is a pretty weak class overall already. That's like kind of objective, but even going into the new season, comparing the other perks, it seems like it's underwhelming, but I'm going to do some more testing and I'll give you guys my rundown. But as far as I'm aware of, like, Rogue is struggling to even hit 100 in the pit, whereas the other classes, we are much higher and you don't need that much like good gear to get the builds up and running. And then even if this build becomes the S tier, I think a lot of players just are interested in playing certain clunky builds. Like if you guys have ever played DMO Wizard, I used to drop video guides on lots of different builds, and I know for sure people hate like these little like step builds, and if you want people to use like these sort of step builds, you have to make them like so good that it is worth it for them to play. Otherwise, they're just going to be like, well, I'd rather just run Dance of Knives, which was already not a very meta skill in terms of like how much potential it could be pushed into the pit with it. However, for like Infernal Hordes, I would say if you are interested in Dance of Knives, it's probably going to be okay, but I'll do more testing and let you guys know. But if you guys have found any sort of like incredibly broken things with the Rogue that are super OP, let me know down below. But again, I wanted to make this video because like I like making Rogue stuff, and I would say Rogue currently feels very underwhelming, and if things don't really change, I think this class is kind of cooked again for the second time in the season as the bottom slot. But anyways, let me know your thoughts down below on the Rogue in Season 10.